Hey everybody, it's Ian of Austin. Yes, that was a buddy of mine, and he is going to be joining us on today's interesting live stream. So here's the situation. We've got lots of different topics that I've done on this channel, and I think one topic that stands out is people are relocating from one place to another fairly often. So since that happens, I've got a friend that flew in from Illinois, from the Chicagoland area, and I thought, how cool would it be to do a live stream with someone who lives in Chicago, wants to move to Austin, has visited back and forth a few times. And, I could have called this escaping Illinois and moving to Texas, or escaping Chicago and moving to Austin. But I like the escaping Illinois. And so I think it'll be a good conversation and kind of help people that are on the fence decide whether or not this could be a move that they're willing to make or that they're interested in making. And so the first thing I want to bring up, before I bring him out, I want to talk about, we've got a Facebook group. This is what spawned it all. There's a Facebook group called Escaping Illinois, right? So if you don't know, I'm from the Chicagoland area, and it's really funny how many people have wanted to relocate. So I'm looking 6.7 thousand members. That's incredible. There are that many people that are consistently talking about relocating from Illinois. And it's not always Austin, but we know that a large majority is. So next, I'm just going to go ahead and bring on my buddy. I'm going to let him introduce himself one more time. I'm Ian of Austin, your real estate guide or your real estate guy, whichever makes the most sense. Let me introduce my friend Dan Lowe's. Dan, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
I was like, are you frozen? Are you messing around? I'm good. So thanks for coming on the channel. I think this is a topic that a lot of people want to hear about, especially in the Chicagoland area. But even people that aren't in Chicago may learn something about Austin and the way we operate. And if they're considering moving from, let's say, New York or Florida, I've got a guy from Costa Rica, a family from Hawaii. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. The point is, what kind of thoughts go through your mind when you're thinking about leaving and heading to another state? So I think first, like, what's most important is, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name's Dan. I'm one of the biggest reasons why I want to move to Austin, or I'm thinking about it, is because I'm really into music. I'm in a band. Before all of this stuff happened, we used to play a lot of shows and whatnot. And right now we're not playing any shows. But that's going to happen again, obviously. Yeah. And Austin everyone knows Austin is the home of live music right now. Like, there's like LA, and then there's Austin, and it's on the same level, which is awesome. In fact, Austin's probably a little bit better because it's more of a personal show. The stages aren't as huge. It's not as huge. You can like communicate with the bands and everything. And there's so much music going on. Now you got South by Southwest every year.
Yep.
Things like that. So
we have ACL.
Right. And it's like a year, it's all year round, which is really cool.
Yeah. So, I think that's huge. The connecting with musicians, right? I think that's a big
That's huge. I mean, music, everything from tech wise. You have Tesla coming here. You have everything's in Austin right now. It's like the hottest spot. Like you said, people are coming from everywhere. It's not just Chicago, although a lot of people are. Everyone's leaving Chicago. But from all over the place. California, people are leaving there to go to Austin. It's the hub right now. It's the hot spot. And that's a lot of good things and bad things with that, but a lot more good than bad.
That's funny. So we have our first comment, Andrew Lowe's. I think I know that guy. Do you know that guy?
I've heard him before. I think I saw him on TV as a Ninja Warrior.
That's true. He's a Ninja Warrior, and Dan's brother, who has a ninja gym here in Austin, Texas. And what does he say? If Snake Plissken can escape New York, Dan can escape Illinois. I'm assuming that's an 80s movie reference.
It is. Escape from New York. Yeah.
All right.
Escape from
I'm
LA.
not very good at those. Escape from LA. I like it. So I think that leads us into a good segue. So we talk about why people want to move here or why people don't. So we were driving from the airport today, and you saw cranes. Like, talk about that sort of thing. Like, what do you see as far as things developing in the area? What are your thoughts?
I guess that's the double-edged sword of Austin right now, which is, I mean, it's awesome because there's so much opportunity for everything. There's, if you want a job, you can have a job. You know, if you need employment, there's someone hiring. There's so much hiring going on that right now they came in. I mean, everyone's hiring. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. So that's really cool. On the negative side, the other side of the sword there is it's, like you said, there's cranes everywhere. Cranes mean construction, and constructions mean slowdown. And, you know, sure, in 5 years from now, that's going to be awesome when the roads are bigger and everything. But, you know, it's part of expanding. And that's what happens when your population explodes. So it's a great thing. It's a good problem to have. Very good problem.
Well, it's a good problem as long as it's managed well. So I think when you look at a city, like if you look at LA or you look at Chicago, like we're talking about Chicago is already so big. Like nobody in this generation or the last generation remembers Chicago when it was small.
Right. It's always been big.
It's just not a thing. What was that, 1903 or something?
And we've always had construction on the roads. So
and we've always had construction up there, right? And so here I see Austin, there were 25 cranes in the air building buildings.
Oh, literally. Yeah. That's
crazy.
Not even figurative. That's like there's cranes
and that's
everywhere.
Today. And I don't think people realize what that is going to do to the local economy, to the roads. And if the infrastructure isn't planned well around it, that can just cause more congestion. And we want to avoid, no offense to Chicago, but to avoid the level of congestion that you have up north right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's one good thing. We've got the jobs. Can you think of some reasons why you think if someone was on the fence, why they would not want to move to Austin? If they're in Chicago, if they're in that area, why wouldn't they want to move?
I guess, and if you like that kind of thing, one problem we have right now, or something people might like, we just got 8 inches of snow yesterday in Chicago, which is, I'm the kind of person where I do enjoy snow for like a week, like during Christmas. And it's really great to have snow and, you know, fun to go play around in it, take the dogs out in it. You know, if you have kids, make snowman, you know, all that stuff. So that's actually a nice thing. The problem is I get tired of it real quick. I hate cold weather. So I think I'm in the wrong spot there. But that's one thing. It's nice having a lot of seasons. And if you're into, you know, skiing, snowboarding, there's mountains, small mountains, mind you, but still places you can do that up there. Whereas here, you know, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say in Austin, a couple weeks ago, we had a dusting of snow on the next morning. But I mean, the world panicked. Everybody was panicked because we saw snow falling. But puppies first snow, kids first snow. That was a wonderful thing. I was fine looking at it from the window. I said, go away. I've seen enough of you in my life. I moved here to get away from you. Thank you. I'll watch you. I'll look at you in a postcard, maybe from other people's Facebook photos. But I'm glad that it doesn't happen here. And so Austin, we have 2 seasons here. We have hot and hotter.
Right.
And that's about it. So today, what would you say the weather was today? So this is, what is it? It's January 31st, February 1st tomorrow, right? So what was the weather like today in Austin, in Chicago and in Austin?
In Chicago, I believe it was in the upper 20s.
That's exciting. That is exciting.
That's not
Can
bad.
We pause and like pay respect to the upper 20s?
It's really not that bad considering Chicago weather. I saw a thing. It was, I want to say it's 3 years ago today in Chicago. It was negative 22 with the wind chill. It was negative 68, I believe. It was literally the coldest place on earth that day.
That wind, and it cuts through your jacket. It's like, I don't care what you're wearing. I don't care what you're doing.
Outside, if you're outside, you're suffering.
Yeah.
So that's one of the negative things of Chicago. Is you get all the weather, but you get all the weather. You get 105 degrees in the summer, and you get negative 22 in the winter, which 105
degrees with a humidity of 89%.
Right, which Chicago. I have a friend that I've also tried to get convinced to move here, where I try to tell her it's not like Houston. Like I know Houston's pretty close, but it's so much more humid there. In Austin, it doesn't seem to get that humid. You know, you get a little bit, but it's not terrible.
If it's going to rain, it gets humid. Right. So, I mean, that's pretty normal. Okay. So, when we were, how would I say this? What about, let's see, topography? let's talk about topography. When you're driving through Chicago, let's say to the airport, there's what do you see? Or even if you're driving out of Chicago, what do you see?
I mean, mostly Chicago's flatlands. That's kind of what Illinois is. It's until you get way down south. It's mostly just flat fields. I mean, you got the lake, of course, and it's very scenic. The city looks really nice
for a few blocks. They're big blocks.
Yeah, right. Obviously got the Mag Mile and all that, but yeah, mostly there's not a lot of differences. And when you're driving through, like even all throughout the northern suburbs of Chicago, it's just bland. Not a whole lot of excitement. Whereas in Austin, it is. It's not exciting. There's no hills, there's no mountains.
Yeah, this isn't a competition. This is just a discussion. It's a discussion to share our perspectives on the areas that we currently live in and why it would make sense to consider a relocation opportunity.
Right. And I think Austin it's a little bit more. And now you can go different places in Illinois. Like you always have like Starved Rock and really cool places you can visit that have a lot more. But it just seems a little bit closer. There's more accessible without driving an hour and a half away, here.
Hour and a half. That right there I think that's a really important point. So if I may, the distance, if you go from downtown Austin, you can drive 30 minutes in any direction and the topography will change. The culture of the surrounding area will change. The type of cuisine, like the food and the diversity and the schools, everything changes within 30 minutes. So it's still like a micro city in that regard, where Chicago, you have these little villages within, but again, like you said, it's all flat, it's all buildings. And then when you get out of the city, it's all flat, it's all buildings.
Right.
And then when you go further, it's all flat and it's all grass. Right?
Now, one thing I do like our grass. That's one thing I've always liked about Illinois. It's very nice, thin grass. Okay. Feels good to walk on.
That's another good point. And I don't think people understand that. You've got, so you said good to walk on. Here in Texas, y'all, if you're thinking about moving here, you do not walk barefoot on the grass. You need to know this. There are these things called wolf spiders. They're as big as your hand. And they do not care about your toes. They don't care about your socks. They're big. Now, they're not going to mess with you. They're not going to hurt you, but it's not like up north, right?
Right. And even
like green for 2 months out of the year.
Right.
It wasn't invasive. And here our grass is like weeds, turns brown, and there are giant bugs and snakes and stuff slithering about. So you have to be careful.
I guess that's a nice thing about the Illinois weather is that big freeze over we get keeps all the gross big bugs away. So obviously everywhere has spiders, everywhere has snakes, but Texas is a little bit bigger. Everything's bigger in Texas.
It really is. And I don't think people understand that, right? If they've been to Louisiana or if they've been to Florida or, Southern Cali,
then they know.
Southern Cali, LA or lower, then they understand that the bugs can grow. Yeah. There are lizards, there are mosquitoes, there's all that. Well, actually, I'm going to take a step back. Talk about mosquitoes in Chicago, up north.
Oh, they're awful. Any time after a rain or anything, any kind of summer's just you have bug repellent with you and that's it. Like if you don't, you have welts all over.
Welts. It's so true. They're almost an infestation there, and it's really bad. I will say one benefit to Austin is we don't get a lot of mosquitoes in the city. Here's why. We've got all these bats, millions of bats, up to 1 million bats, or maybe just over 1 million bats that sit under the South Congress Bridge. And we have some in Round Rock. So as long as you're staying somewhere near I-35, there are a lot of bats that eat mosquitoes when they would eat out. And so I rarely, unless they just don't like my blood, maybe it's not the Texas blood type thing, but I rarely have mosquito bites here. Where up north, I would be all sorts of colors, red dots all over my body. It was the most horrible thing. So
I don't get a lot of bites, but I do get some. I mean, if you go out there with the shirt off, you're done. It's just a bad story for anyone. But some people get even worse than me. Yeah, some people like they walk outside and it's like they just got chicken pox. They come in and it's like, and that's no joke, you know. It's just it's awful. So
it's pretty bad.
But yeah, being down here, I've been here quite a few times now. It's probably my 15th trip or so.
I think that's a good point because your perspective, you don't live here in Austin, but you've been here enough where you can identify a lot of the differences. That's why I thought it was important that people got to experience our conversation.
Right. Yeah, but you're right about the bugs. There are mosquitoes still, but I mean, not even near as many. You know, not even close. So
okay. So there's so many little nuances that I think would be important. So you said you've been here 15 times. We talked about the weather. How does that affect your daily life? Like the weather, just the environment. How does that affect your daily life? What you're able to do on a daily basis?
Well, obviously during the summers are very similar. The weather's it's a lot more humid in Chicago, but it's, as far as getting out and doing things, it's pretty close during the summer.
How long does summer last? Maybe that's the first question.
That's the problem. Okay. Now, yeah, a Chicago summer is you get anywhere from 2 months to 4 months, depending, but it can change in a day. And then you can get winter for 8 months, which is terrible because that's what we face now. I like to go out running. And I haven't ran in 2 months. Now, some people run through the snow, and there are a small amount of people that are willing to do that. They'll throw on their, a shirt and whatnot, just a little sweatshirt, and they'll go out running when it is 10 degrees below. They're still out running. I am not like that. I hate the cold. It hurts my lungs. And if it is cold out, I look for any excuse in the world not to go outside. Whereas when it's warm out, I look for excuses not to go outside. It's like I want to go.
I think up north it's circumstantial. You're like, listen, if I want to run, I have to do it, and I just have to deal with the weather. Where here it's almost the polar opposite. So instead of 2 months of summer, you have 2 months of, oh my gosh, it's so hot, I'm not going anywhere, and the rest of the time it's like, I can deal with this.
Right. And even then, it cools off towards the end of the night. So, if you want to run at nighttime here, it's 70 degrees and it's not that bad. Yeah. That's totally runnable. But yeah, during the midday, you're not going to be wanting to run in the middle of a Texas summer. It gets a little sweaty, but at nighttime, it's fine. Totally great. You don't get that option really in Chicago. It's, where it's -10 during the day and then -20 during the night. It's there's no time you want to go out there and run. Not for me, at least. Other people, sure, not me.
Earlier, we talked about just the weather. We said what it is in Chicago today. We didn't actually say what it was in Austin today. So I think today was 72.
Yeah, it was right around 70.
72 and sunny. There were people out. There were people out on the water, on the lake, doing stand-up paddleboarding, which I understand, and kayaking. Wearing almost nothing in between their legs and on their body. I'm thinking it's not that warm, people. They must have been from out of town.
I don't know.
It's not warm enough to be kayaking. I've been here long enough, but anyway.
I agree. I mean, I'm from where it's, very cold out. Our rivers are all ice, so that's not even an option. Well, I guess you could still do it. Not quite as fast, but
that's a negative. You can't ice fish in Austin.
Yeah, that's true. That's more of a Wisconsin thing, I feel like. But they like their ice fishing up there, and that's I guess another thing you got to chalk up for Wisconsin is you can ice fish.
So I think it's important contextually to say that. So Dan, and pardon me if I'm incorrect, but Dan lives almost in between where Chicago and Milwaukee are. So it's north of Chicago, but it's an hour from Dan's house to get to Chicago. It's an hour to go the other direction and get to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they're both similar. They're not similar size cities, but they're both entertainment hubs.
Sure. Yeah.
So whenever he says Wisconsin, it's because he's right on the border of the two. But taxes are paid to Illinois. Right. Income tax, employment tax, all that's paid to Illinois. Before we get into taxes and things like that, tell me about one thing I hear a lot of people don't they underestimate is the allergies. I know you don't really have allergies, but
I don't, but I know people like you do. And I know spring, summer, and fall are pretty miserable for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, in Austin, it's the cedar and the pollen is bad here.
Okay.
For people that have never had allergies, I've noticed that they, after about year 3, year 4, they're, all congested and sniffling all over the place. It's pretty crazy.
I've heard a lot of people have problems with like cottonwood and stuff up by us. And that's, I've never had a problem, but yeah, I guess we have a lot of it in Chicago and I've never had a problem, but people complain. Pollen, there's obviously tons of pollen.
Yep.
That's another good thing about Chicago. I guess another mark is gardening is very easy by us. It's especially in the summer. Gardening, growing, having little farms and whatnot. It's pretty easy going.
We've got dry dirt.
Right. Cactus.
With cactus.
Weeds.
No, you can bring in some soil and they do raised flower beds here a lot because the existing soil, it doesn't get enough water in a lot of locations. It depends on where you live. That's another thing. Very different landscape here. A lot of places in Austin, based on what section or what suburb you're in, the soil changes. If you're in Northwest, you're on like a limestone rock quarry, right? Mm-hmm. If you're far east, you might be in this like black clay area, or there's all that variance in the soil. So if you are a farmer or you have land, that's important to note. Or if you want to do cattle or something, those are all relevant. So what was another thing I wanted to ask about? Let's talk about the houses themselves. This is a real estate channel, obviously. Let's talk about the houses. Give me a price range in your area on what you're paying for a house and what you're getting for what you're paying.
Sure. Yeah. In my area, obviously the northern suburbs, you could look at anything from, depending on the cities and whatnot, anything from like 120 to a really nice house by us is 350. And that's a pretty respectable house. And there's really like a newer house.
Yeah.
Whereas here, obviously with so many people coming in, it's so many people leaving Illinois makes our prices more affordable. So many people coming here makes your prices up quite a bit from that.
So it's interesting. So I still have a lot of friends up north. I think one of the comments is the house prices are not only lower in Illinois generally, as you get away from the city. We're not talking like in the city, obviously. We're talking about suburbs 30 minutes out, maybe 45 minutes out. And the house prices are lower in Illinois, as are the property taxes. Is that a true statement?
I feel like my property taxes are pretty expensive.
Yeah, everybody feels like if it's more than $0, you're going to feel it's expensive.
That's right. Yeah, I think.
Okay, but how many square? So let's talk square footage.
Sure.
Right. So you also get a fair amount of square footage and a basement.
Right.
People that are relocating other places.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't think everybody understands. We don't have basements here. There are very few houses that have basements, and it's a big deal when you're coming from a place and you're used to having one, because where do you store all your junk? Let's say it's junk. Where do you store everything?
Right. Yeah. Everything here is definitely. I mean, you can build a lot of houses here. They go up instead of down. So that's nice. You still get you got the real estate there. You got the space. Unless
you're using a bedroom for storage,
right? True.
It's not the same as a basement.
That's true.
A finished basement. Nice. We've talked about this a few times. A finished basement, you can put your pool table down there, or it's just a nice place with maybe very little light, so it's perfect for a media room. Escape the sound.
And it's typically a lot cooler in a basement too.
And it's cooler. If you get hot. Thing is, it's winter 9 months out of the year, so I don't think you need to be cooler.
Right.
But I think it matters for a lot of people. So you have the price of the house, and then in Austin for $350, you're just starting to hit the market today.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are very few houses in Austin or just north of Austin today that you can buy for less than $350,000.
Right. And that price is today. And tomorrow it's going up. It's
Right.
not going down anytime soon.
Oh yeah. So that brings me to another point. Time on market.
Mm-hmm.
In Illinois, houses, if you're trying to sell your house, even though it's a hot market, it still seems like it takes longer. It takes a longer amount of time. So if you're relocating, you have to think about where you're relocating to.
Right.
And then you may not have the same value. How about employment? Let's talk about that.
Well, obviously, with so many people leaving the state, employment opportunities, they're there, but businesses are leaving too.
Yes.
And they're going, to places like Austin. Austin is getting a lot of business.
Do you think people make more money in Austin or in Illinois or Chicago for the same job?
Well, that's another good question, because obviously Texas doesn't have an income tax,
right,
which plays right into how much you bring home. That's even getting paid, which more usually it seems like people get paid more here. So the wages are already more, and then you don't have at least close. From what I've seen for my job, I know that the pay rate it's not significant, but it is higher. Starting.
Okay, so for your same job, the pay rate's higher where? In Austin or in Chicago?
Here in Austin.
In Austin.
In Austin is higher for the exact same job. And again, no income tax, so it's even more than that.
So no state income tax. You still have federal.
Right.
So no state income tax. And so what I think I've learned is a lot of the specialty jobs, or some of the not a lot, some of the specialty jobs, and I'm going to say like doctors, lawyers, nurses, or something, teachers. The salary in Austin is lower than a lot of other places because some of these companies are banking on the fact that there's no state income tax.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm in an unconventional position, being a small business owner.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I see salaries a lot. I see a lot of people relocating in their salaries, and we talk about approximations of how much they make and everything. And it sounds like some people end up taking a pay cut unexpectedly, especially if they're coming from, let's say, California or New York or Chicago, where it's known to be a high-paying city because the cost of living is so high.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing is the cost of living. So, even though you'd probably pay more for a house, but less for, certain things. Living in the city in Chicago is extremely expensive. If you're just right outside the suburbs.
Do you know what the tax rate is in Chicago for let's say you're going to buy something at the store? Do you know what the tax is in Cook County or Lake County or Cook County?
Oh man, I can't remember offhand. I think it's
above 10%, isn't it?
I believe last time, like in Gurnee, for example, it was like 9.9% or something like that, which is insane.
It's a lot.
10 cents on every dollar that you pay. So think of that when you're buying a TV, and
yeah,
it adds up. Then you start talking about cars. That's a lot of money. So
in Austin, it's I think it's a respectable 8.5%.
Is that the city or is that the surrounding suburbs? Or is it?
I think it's the city, and it depends on if there's food. Some food doesn't have sales tax.
Well, that's nice.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
but
everything is tax.
The state has to make money. The cities have to make money. So the way they make money is through fees and taxes. And I've had this conversation with a bunch of friends. One friend who works for the for the city of Austin, and he's very astute when it comes to talking about the taxes. So he's like, listen, the property taxes have to offset the cost of income that the state's making. So your property taxes here, I'm just going to go ahead and jump out and tell you, you're going to pay between 2.3% and 3% annually for your property taxes. So if your house is worth $300,000, you're going to pay 3% of that, was at $9,000 every year just for property taxes. I'm going to say that again.
Pretty high too.
I know, but I don't think they're that high.
It's probably not as high, but it's close.
So people that are coming from California are hit in the gut. Is this my gut? They're hit in the chest because their property taxes. So their prices are skyrocketed. Chicago prices are skyrocketed. New York prices are skyrocketed, but the property tax is 1.8 in like the Bay Area in California.
That's actually, I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, but if you're paying 1.5 million for a 3-bedroom, 1,600 square foot house, you know, it's still a lot of money. But yeah, so the property taxes are lower, but they're still paying a state income tax. And in Illinois, you're still paying a state income tax. In Texas, you're paying more in property taxes, but you're not paying that state income tax. So that does often help out. Now, let's talk about utilities. What would you say average utility rates are for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house? Let's say electric, gas.
And that's, I guess, it depends if you have gas, electric, what you use for, stoves and everything. But it's the thing that's a good point, because in Illinois, you don't, at least in my area, you don't have options of who you're going to pay, and there's no competition. So prices are actually pretty expensive. It's all regulated, obviously. But I mean, if you're getting gas, you're paying one, you don't have a choice really. And if you're paying electric, you go through Commonwealth Edison, and there's like subsidiaries, but that's a very small amount that they take off. Very small. So for people, Commonwealth anyways.
Yeah, for people who haven't been to Austin or the area, so Austin in the city, you pay Austin Energy for your electric. But if you are in the suburbs, there's a high probability, I would say arbitrarily 80%, 85% opportunity that your city is deregulated. Excuse me. So it's like that in New York, if I'm not mistaken. So that means you can get your energy from anybody, just like you can get your TV from anybody, just like you can get your cable, your internet from anybody. It's kind of the same thing with your electric bill. So you have options in a lot of cases where you're getting your electric bill. So while it is generally more expensive, you can reduce the price by shopping for the rates for your electric bill.
And that's a good point too.
Or in Austin, greater Austin area.
Right. Another thing for me, I'm a bit of a gamer, and if you want high-speed internet, you have one option. It's Comcast, and that's it. There is no other option. You can get AT&T. They are available, but their speeds are a quarter of what you can get with Comcast. So there isn't an option. Whereas here, you have things like Google Fiber that are, it's coming around. It's growing. We have
AT&T Fiber. We have Verizon Gigapower. We have T-Mobile has a gigabit internet. I'm only on 500 megabits per second down. Half a gig.
I'm sorry.
I know. I know. I'm sorry too. It's horrible.
Yeah. I have I think 650 or 750, something like that.
That's good.
Gigabits per second. Yeah, and I pay I think it's $90 a month, but that's with just internet. You can get cable packages, but they always try to sell you packages and whatnot. I just want internet.
We never actually talked about like average pricing for electric or water or trash, any of that. Give me some numbers.
Well, I don't know how it is here, but for water, I don't have a water bill.
I'll talk about here, and you can talk about Chicago.
Sure.
Oh, okay. So here, I want to say electric. A lot of people pay about $200 to $250 a month for their electric bill. And they're for a lot of reasons. But just thinking about the average size of their house and such, I know some people who've paid $400 a month for a small place. Small meaning less than 2,000 square foot. And it's because you have some homes that are a little less efficient. They're built in the 80s or the 70s, or their windows are bad, or and you couple that with it's a deregulated space, so they're choosing somebody who's more expensive naturally because they don't know, and that's why we have these conversations. So how about in Chicago? Give me some prices.
Well, I know for me, I have about 800 square feet.
Upstairs.
It's got a basement and the regular floor, a small attic, and I usually pay anywhere from. The house was built in 1935, so it's an old house too. That's huge. The age of the homes. Right. So obviously, I'll be paying a little bit more than most of my neighbors, but I pay about like $150 a month for which is a little expensive.
Yeah. Okay. So it is smaller square footage, a smaller footprint, but like you said, it's an older home. So
It
you're
is
gonna
more
have,
house, yeah.
you're gonna have leakage in the windows, and you just replaced all your windows, so that should help next year. But you're paying a lot to keep it heated.
Heated and cooled.
When you have 9 months of winter,
right?
You can't deal with 20 degrees.
Right. It's
so, and it's kind of the reverse here, where you have to cool it down most of the year. So you don't really get a break on that, and based on where you're coming from. Now, if you're coming from California, for example, and it's a consistent, beautiful temperature all the time, then you don't have to use any of those. So it might actually be a benefit to you. New York, similar to Chicago, the Midwest temperatures, and then Florida, similar to Houston, where it is so humid all the time that you're spending a large amount of your time cooling the place down. And dehumidifiers. Oh, so that, I guess that's a note for Chicago versus Austin. Basements, dehumidifiers, sump pumps.
Sump pumps.
Talk about that versus not having a basement. Like, what do you like about that? And
sure, it's a double-edged sword for that, because your basement does keep your house cooler, just because it's naturally lower heat. It's a lot cooler underground than it is above ground.
Yep.
But you have the problems of needing a sump pump. Yep. If it rains extremely, you get a heavy rain, you can get leaks. Yep. If you have carpet, if you finish your basement, and your sump pump goes out and you don't have a backup sump pump, you're going to have to recarpet. Fix all your walls, because floods are a common thing, especially, just about anywhere in Illinois.
So floods are a common thing when they have basements. Is it because the foundation cracks?
It can be a lot of reasons. One is, of course, older houses, older foundations, see it cracks.
Okay.
And the water pressure got to go somewhere. It
does have to go somewhere.
And if your sump pumps are up to the task, it's fine. But sometimes, like last year, we had a really bad flood. It just, it rained and it didn't stop raining for 2 days. Yeah. And my whole backyard filled up with water. And you can have all the sump pumps in the world going, if there's too much water coming in, it's just not, you're gonna have problems. And I had problems.
Okay.
But it's rare, but it does happen.
So here we don't have the basements, but we have slab foundations, and they're held in place by rebar, right? So you've got the crosshatch pattern, and then just a block of cement, essentially, and that's how our tension rod. Sorry, and that's how our foundations are created, and they're 2 feet thick or so, and at a minimum, and then they can get deeper based on if there's an incline on the hill, all that. So the reason why I bring that up is because for us, it is a big deal if our foundations crack. I don't know that it's as big of a deal if you have a basement like in Chicago, because we're not getting water in anything. It's just frustrating because if you have a tile floor, it cracks the tile. So in Austin, one thing that a lot of people don't know when they move here is you actually have to water your foundation.
Oh, wow. See, I didn't even know that.
I know, it's the weirdest thing, right? So normally you're like, water's terrible for your foundation. Yes, you don't want sitting water, but what you want to do is, if you have mulch or flower beds or an irrigation system, you want to make sure that your foundation has moisture so that it remains a certain percentage of, it has a certain level of malleability. Is that a word? Let's say that's a word. It has to be a little bit malleable, little sponge-like, so that way it doesn't crack under pressure because it's dry. It has to expand and contract. It has to be able to do that. And so having a little bit of water on it, especially in the dry months of the summer, keeps your foundation from cracking in Austin. I don't know that you can even control that due to the extreme temperatures in Illinois.
Right.
What you would do
it gets rainy there, especially during you get the snow melt and everything else. So you're getting
water. You have the snow, so you have sitting water around your entire basement. Mm-hmm. And so you have to do like dehumidifiers and all that sort of stuff to keep
during the summer. Yeah, you got to have the dehumidifiers out. You can get mold. It's a big thing. So it's, like I said, it's a lot more upkeep because you have to have sump pumps. You have to have sump pumps if you have a basement. Otherwise, you're going to flood. You have to have dehumidifiers. Otherwise, it's going to be sticky.
How about the roofs? The roofs of the houses.
Well, I guess one thing that we have to worry about, it's not super common, but you do have to worry about hail damage.
Okay.
you can get here, but it's a lot more rare here. But and there's ice overs and whatnot, on your roof that you have to worry about.
What does snow do to your roof?
Any good, you want to clean the snow off as much as you can. You don't want it sitting. It's snow if it gets heavy, if you don't clean your gutters out, for example, and you get the big ice chunks on it can tear off your gutters. I mean, you see it happen every year.
I've seen houses up north where they're like this. They're like a cards being bent. It's the craziest thing because the weight of the snow
is so heavy, right?
It's so heavy, and they didn't construct it well because it was, if it's built in the 40s, they didn't know better. They're still learning. And it's kind of the same thing with your vehicles. And I know this isn't really tied to houses, but your vehicles, you have all this snow. How do you get rid of snow up north? Salt.
Sure. Yeah.
And what does that do to your vehicles?
That's another nice thing about here is there's no, like, if you want a car that lasts more than 10 years, you can do it here. Whereas up north, if you drive through the snow and the slush, all that salt gets on your car, and you just don't get anywhere near the life out of your vehicle.
That's a real.
Everybody knows that.
So, and I think that matters for places like California and Florida. I don't think it matters. Oh, and New York. It's pretty much everywhere. And the reason why I say those, every southern city, the reason why I say those is because you have the ocean, right? Mm-hmm. In Austin, we're about 3 hours from the actual ocean. We have fresh water, but we're about 3 hours from the actual ocean. And so we don't have to deal with salt. We don't have snow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not there's no salt trucks. There are sand trucks.
That's a good problem to have.
I think it's a good problem to have, that your car accidentally lasts longer. Your house, your roof, mm-hmm. your foundation can last longer. Your energy use seems like if you can learn how to manage it and learn how to shop for the different utilities, then you can lower your cost of living as a result.
Speaking of which, so it seems like for here, with so much sun, you have a lot of possible maybe like solar options.
Yes. I love that you brought that up. Okay, so we have 188 average days of sunlight, right? That's really strong. We have a lot of sunlight, and I'm not talking like hazy days. I'm talking it is so bright here. It's not California bright. It's not like give me one of those mountain towns along the ocean side bright, but it is pretty. Hey Christian, how's it going? Thanks for watching. But yeah, it is really bright here, and that helps if you want to harness the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that. In Illinois, it's mostly cloudy and gray skies. No offense.
We get our sun too, but not like down here. Obviously, you get a lot more days to be out here.
Yeah. How about okay? So we talked about a lot of those. I think those are all really good. We talked about taxes. We talked about jobs. Give me something else. Hobbies. Let's touch on that one time real quick. So,
a big thing. I'm not a golfer, but I do like to go to the driving ranges every now and then.
Okay.
And it's you can't do that right now in Illinois unless you go and shovel out your green and then de-thaw your golf balls and you hit it once and you lose it because it's going to the snow somewhere.
That's true.
Here, obviously, you can go to places like Topgolf. We do have one in Chicago, but there's no way it's open. It hit the ball and it shattered. Where here, it's an option that you have so much. If you want to go outside and play frisbee with your dog, you can do that. If you want to go outside and throw a snick and outside and with my dog, it disappear in the snow. You have to dig your dog out.
We have the ability. I've been big into mountain biking lately. I love the culture and the scene, and so I can go. I've been going every week at a minimum, just going mountain biking. We have lots of trails, and I know you guys have lots of trails up north and in Wisconsin, but it doesn't seem like anybody does it. Or very few people really get into it. Like they, because of the weather. I think it's ignorance. Do you agree with that?
During the summer, there's a lot to do. But again, that's the bad thing about there is you can't go mountain biking when there's 12 inches of snow on the ground.
I've seen the big tires.
Sure. I'm sure some people can, but it makes that community so much smaller. A lot less people are, a lot of things. I think, I know I have a few friends, like during this time of year, people start putting on more weight because there's just so much less to do. It's more unhealthy of a lifestyle. You look for reasons to stay in. If it's 20, I mean, let's be honest, if it's 20 below, you don't want to go outside and go for a jog. You don't want to go outside and do anything. You want to stay inside and crank the heater on. Yeah. And then you want to be motivated to do stuff, but it's really easy to lose your motivation when you don't keep on a schedule of doing things. That's how I am. I need a set schedule. Otherwise I'll start getting lazy and, just peter off. And before you know it, you got 10 pounds and a little gut.
Well, I think people, they don't want to go outside because it's cold. Like, why would I do that? And then also they don't want to drive in the snow with other people. Right. Because people cannot drive in the snow. I don't know what happened. I don't know where they failed in driving school, driver's ed. Is that what it's called? Yes. Like, how do you not? I don't get it. It's like if you have a rear wheel drive car, you can't fishtail and expect to maintain control. Like that should be street logic. No. A
lot of people. The big problem we have is a lot of people think they can drive and they'll throw on their 4x4 and.
Oh yeah, that's fine. We have that rain here.
The problem is when it comes to braking, they don't realize you need 3 times the amount to stop, and I mean there's a lot of accidents, and that's why even risk that. Whereas here in Austin, you don't. You get snow once every 5 years, if that. And so it's a nice problem not to have. So, like I said, just go out and do anything you want.
Yeah. Nice. Motorcycles. We both ride motorcycles. And how many months out of the year can you ride, like realistically?
If you're dedicated, you can get 7 months at best. That's if you're
like full winter gear.
Yeah, that's full winter gear. For me, probably 4 months, maybe 5. It all depends. Yeah. And it sucks. You have a bike for half a year, not even half a year,
or a boat,
yeah.
Right. A bike, a boat, a camper. It's kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. Or tent camping. If you have a camper, you have a little more,
still no one's going to haul a camper out to, up north Wisconsin to hang out, to get stuck in the snow.
Oh. Yeah. I think that's good. Right. So Christian says, get to the money. I think we talked about a lot of the money. We talked about the taxes, the cost of living. I think that's good. The average price point of homes. We've talked about a lot of the relevancy of the weather and how that affects your time during
and ways to save money.
So that's what was that?
And the ways to save money here by getting solar panels. That's a big. If you can afford to put that on your house, it costs a lot up front, but you can save a lot faster here in Texas than you can.
So I think so. And one last thing I wanted to talk about specifically as far as like culture living here, a lot of restaurants and a lot of places have not only an indoor seating area, but an exterior seating area. That is a very big cultural thing in Austin and in a lot of the surrounding suburbs. Now in Chicago and some of those suburbs, it's cold all the time. So there was less value placed on exterior stuff. Now there was this situation that happened in the United States and the rest of the world, a global situation, and it completely changed how people do business. So what's it like when you drive around in the middle of winter in the Chicagoland area when that situation is taking effect?
Right. Well, in Chicago, they're just now starting to open indoor seating, and I know here there's a lot of outdoor. So you didn't have quite the problem that we did where, some restaurants, a lot of them were takeout only. And that was the only option. There is no going in. There is no option to go in. You can't sit out on a patio. Obviously the places that did have patios, some of them could, some, it all depends on the area you're in. But yeah, here it seems like at least there was the option to sit outside, and that helped a lot of small, businesses. Whereas, what are you going to do in Chicago when you can't eat outside? It just kind of is what it is.
Hey, Rebecca, how are you? Thanks for watching and joining in. Let us know if you have any. So Rebecca's in Dallas. She's an amazing realtor. She's got a YouTube channel. If you're considering Dallas, I don't know, maybe you consider that over Austin, but if you are considering Dallas, make sure you reach out to Rebecca or reach out to me and I'll connect you with Rebecca and we can talk about that. So one other thing I want to talk about is you. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, Dan, and we're kind of winding down, right? If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, I know you talked about you're really into music. You've got a band. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about how someone can reach you if they wanted to just have a chat, maybe go get a beer?
Sure. You can always reach me on, I stream online on Twitch. You can check me out at Twitch /NoFexius.
Okay.
Same with Instagram, NoFexius. That's kind of the name I go by. But yeah, you can hit me up on either one of those. If you want to talk about music, band, moving to Texas, try to convince me to meet that last step.
Maybe you need a roommate, right? Like you never know. It's all about making connections. And I think the culture here fosters that. Culture in Austin fosters that. People are nice. People like being with people. Can't touch anybody right now, but it's like being with people. We're in Chicago. Everyone was all mad. Why is everyone so mad?
Well, I think that's the city. People are always grumpy in big cities, you know. Whereas
even in Austin, somebody could be living in a tent and still be happier than half the population of Chicago. I don't know why that is.
I don't know. I mean, we're Midwestern folk are pretty nice. I like to think once you get to those coasts, people get a lot more grumpy than here. So I've heard a lot of good things about it. Well, there's always that Southern hospitality you hear about.
There is.
True.
Definitely. The people. Here's the thing. I think a lot of times people mistake someone who's rude. I gotta be real careful. I don't want to get myself in any trouble.
Don't step on your toes here.
There are a lot of people that are here that are not from here.
Oh yeah.
So there is a fade in what is constituted as Southern hospitality, but there's also such a diversity and a mix of cultures. What one person might consider to be rude might be perfectly acceptable in another culture. And I think learning how to become that melting pot takes time. And Austin is very much a melting pot. Chicago's been a melting pot for much longer, since the 1930s or something. Like, it's huge. But it's also big, and there's all these little sects and
that's the thing about Chicago is everyone has their own district. You know, everything's more segregated in a way where it's like certain people are in certain areas, and everyone does mix, especially in certain areas. But Austin it's like everywhere. It's just like a stirred pot where there's no like certain areas. So it's. I
want to talk about what Rebecca says. She says she's helped him relocated multiple people from the Midwest, as have I. I've brought like half of my friend crew from the Chicagoland area and helped them relocate here because, well, it doesn't even take recruiting or asking them to come here. What happens is they visit and they're like,
"This is nice.
I'll see you. I'll be there." You know, everybody, that's what ends up happening. So I agree with Rebecca. It's a lot of people that come here are nice. So if you do come here, if you do want to relocate here, continue to be nice. I think that's a good end note. Okay, so Dan, we're getting ready to take off. What are your parting words for somebody who's on the fence, thinking about relocating, or even considering staying in Chicago or escaping Illinois? What's the last parting words you would tell them?
I mean, I would say if ever I was to move, and I am heavily thinking about it for a lot of reasons.
I know.
But the biggest thing is, like you said, the people here are very nice. The music scene it's outstanding. So if you're in the music, like if you like playing shows, if you like going to shows, if you like meeting different bands, you can actually meet the bands and talk to bands here. You meet new people. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do here in Austin that you just can't do in Chicago. Chicago is a place you go if you're established, and you just, it's just harder to meet and greet. Where here, you walk down the street and you bump into someone that that plays, guitar in some band you've heard before, and everyone's just cool to talk to. So and the weather. I mean, come on, look outside the window. If you're in Chicago right now, I want you to do me a favor. Go up, open your curtain, look outside, look at that 12 inches of snow you got there, look at the temperature, and then I can show you. I mean, these palm trees aren't real right here, but it's pretty close.
There are real palm trees in our backyard. Not our backyard, but the person behind us is backyard.
It's about 70 degrees here during the day. So come on.
So Jonas asks, who's the best local mortgage lender? $1.5 million. So that constitutes as, just real quick, a jumbo loan. Anything over $548,000 loan amount constitutes as a jumbo loan. And I could be off on the number, but it's close to that range. So best mortgage lender is absolutely a, how do you say it? Subjective. It's the word best is subjective. I have people that I like to work with that specialize with certain types of people. I have people that specialize in VA loans. I have people that specialize in first-time home buyers. I have people that specialize in larger loans. I have luxury clients, for example. So yeah, there is some variety. Here's what I would say. If you're interested in that, private message me. I'm Ian of Austin anywhere on the internet, and I will gladly share my list of lender contacts. I would love to do that, but I also don't want to single someone out and then make other people feel bad. That's not cool. Like I want to understand who you are, what you're looking for, and then connect you with that person. There are a lot. It's a shoppable thing. It depends what matters to you, whether it's experience, whether it's cost. If it's a $1.5 million loan, costs, while they are relevant, you should care. Often people care more about the experience and the level of customer service, right? So off my conversation a little bit. Jonas, Ian can hook you up. Thank you, Rebecca. I will gladly hook you up offline. So everyone, like I said, this was very unconventional or unorthodox. We haven't. It's interesting to have a potential client or a friend or someone who isn't a realtor on a real estate channel to just talk about, how they feel, why they're on the fence, why they're not. And so, Dan, I just want to thank you one more time for coming on the show, on the Ian of Austin show. Is that what I'm going to call this? No. Thank you for coming on my channel and just having a good conversation and hopefully helping some people out getting, I don't know what this means. Please single me out. Christian, you too. Thank you for hopping on and commenting and being a lively voice for us. Yes, we all go way back. And I think this is good information for people to hear. I think it adds value to people's lives, especially if they're considering escaping Illinois, moving to Austin, or moving away. There are people that want to leave Austin and go somewhere else, especially when they realize the cost of living. So thank you again. I appreciate everybody for watching. Catch you soon. Catch you again soon. See you on the channel. Make sure you subscribe. Thanks, y'all.